Let's give a big Dwyer welcome to the CEO of the Dwyer Group, Mike Bidwell.
Good morning. I recognize the song, Feels So Good, and it does feel good to be here in front of all of you this morning because we've had a great year. We've accomplished a lot. It's been some amazing progress, and we're well poised for our future. I'm going to share some results with you this morning. We're going to talk about some news. We're going to talk about some numbers, and I'm going to talk about the future. And as I talk about the future, I want you to imagine a place that's going to be better. Now, let's get right into the news. We've got a lot to talk about. And why is it the news is always bad? You see headlines, they talk about all the bad stuff right out front. You got to go to several pages back to get the good stuff. We hear that, I've heard some bad news here this morning and over the last couple days. We don't have enough technicians. The economy's so busy. I've got trucks parked. And we've got $15 minimum wage in Seattle and San Francisco because we've got career politicians and regulators that are implementing what we think is discriminatory regulations to small business, trying to attack our way of business. But is it really bad news? I would submit to you that it's not bad news. It's really good news. Why don't we have enough technicians? Because we got a lot of calls. There's a lot of work to be done. Just a few years ago, I was standing up here and we were talking about having not enough calls. We had plenty of technicians. It's never just right, is it? If it was just right, it'd be easy and everybody would be doing it and we wouldn't get paid very well. So it's great news. People are in our space. People want to do what we're doing. But we're already in that space, and we're in a space that has scarcity of supply, which we're going to talk about. So we couldn't be in a better place. So when I stood up here last year, I mentioned to you that we were closing in on $1 billion in system sales. We had a shot of potentially hitting that by year end. So this is the first time that we're all together again, so it's time that I update you on how we did. Let's see just how we did. So there's a beaker with all the franchise brands that we finished the year with. Is anybody quick with the math? Drum roll. Oh. Close. 991.5. But wait, Glass Doctor has a sister company in Portland Glass. We've got 34 company stores in northern New England that did $31 million in system sales. Over by $22 million. Congratulations, you're part of a $1 billion company. That's amazing. It's amazing because you did it $200, $400, $600 at a time. We're not selling cars here. That's incredible. But that's about all the celebrating we're going to do. Because it's not about hitting the goal. It's about driving to the goal. So we celebrated about 5 minutes, and then we set the next goal. And what is that goal? How about $2 billion? $2 billion. And how about if we do that it took us 34 years to get to the first billion. Let's do the next billion in 5 years. 5 years. It's a little audacious, it's ambitious, but I'd rather set the bar high and get close than set a bar low and accept mediocrity. So we've got a plan to do that. We've got a plan to get to $2 billion. Let's talk about how we're going to do that. First, you can see on the screen that we're starting at $1.3 billion this year because we've had a lot of success on our acquisition front. I'm going to talk to you more about that in just a few minutes. But local calls is a big opportunity for us. Many of you do a fantastic job when the phone rings, answering the phone and converting that into a service call. But we have some additional opportunity there because many of you are so busy running your businesses. I get it. You've got trucks you got to get on the road. You've got to hire techs, get them dispatched. You've got estimates you got to give. Maybe get parts. You can't sit there all day long and listen to your CSRs and record them and play it back and coach them every day. And that's what it takes to do an excellent job at it. So we ought to be a resource for you, an opportunity, which leads into our next building block, driving toward $2 billion, and that is call center. We have a big call center initiative that we've launched. I know we have an opportunity to do a better job with our 800 number, our national advertising inbound calls, and if we do a good enough job with that, maybe we can help you out with the local calls, and that's what we intend to do. I know we have an opportunity to improve because one of the goals of leadership and management in business is to introduce simplicity, to take the complex and make it simple. And what we have right now is complex, and that's why we've launched an initiative. Number 2 is CRM capability. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. We do a great job of going out and securing jobs and then performing exceptional frontline service. I know because we have a very high Net Promoter Score. You guys get very high reviews. But it often stops there. We have a lot of opportunity to stay in touch with the customer and nurture those relationships. And we intend to help you do that. The next building block is marketing efficiency. Look, marketing has become one of the most complex parts of our business today. And the pace of change is amazing. What we used to do 2 years ago is different today. We've got to do something different. Many of you have told us that, look, I know I need to spend more on marketing, and I'm willing to do that. Just tell me what to do and tell me what I should expect. And that's exactly what we intend to do. Digital capability. Now, digital is certainly marketing, but digital is so much more than marketing. It's so important that we've got to have our own building block for digital. We've got to be very competent in that space, and we're working on that. Next is disruptive opportunities. Now, that may be a new concept or a new terminology for some of you, but I know some of you it's not because we've talked about it. What is disruptive technology and disruptive opportunities? We'll spend some time on that in just a few minutes. Then there's franchisee growth. Well, what is that? Well, that's what you do each and every day. When you get a job, however you get it, and you go out and execute, and the customer decides, hey, that was pretty good. I think I'll use these people again. Some of you have repeat customer rates that are 50%, 60%, 70%. And that's amazing. And that's the goal. That's where you want to get, because that drives down your marketing costs and drives up your profitability and accelerates your growth. My favorite report every month at work is our same-store sales report, because that's an indication of how each of you are doing at building your business. And then finally, there's external acquisitions. And we've had a lot of success with external acquisitions. We're going to spend a few minutes on that this morning. So as we talk about the future, there's 4 words I want you to think about. 4 words. And those words are engage, improve, acquire, and evolve. Engage, improve, acquire, and evolve. So let's talk about engage. Now I'm going to preach to the choir a little bit for just a few minutes here because all of you are here and you're engaged. When I was a franchisee, I spent 11 years as a franchisee of several of our brands. I always thought that maybe half the value of the franchise relationship, the franchise proposition, was the ability to come to these events and connect with other franchisees doing just what I was attempting to do. And I would seek out those that were doing something better than me or something more than me. And I would ask them, how do you do it? And the beautiful thing was they would tell me. So I built my businesses just emulating what others were doing very well. I cobbled those success stories together. And all of you have taken time, you get that. You've taken time away from your businesses, time away from your families to travel to Austin, Texas, and you've spent good money to be here because you get the value of investing the effort in sharpening the saw. But what I would encourage you to do is if you know a franchisee that isn't here, prod them, pull them along to the next meeting, because we spend a lot of money and time and effort on these events, and you do too to be here. And there's no time like this for us to exchange information. And when we've got to go back after this meeting's over and try and disseminate that information to everyone else, frankly, it's dilutive on all of our efforts. So we need to get everybody to the meeting. So I ask your help in doing that. We've all got to be engaged as an entire organization moving in the same direction. There's one other way you can get engaged. We're very active participants in what's called the International Franchise Association, the IFA. Also, the CFA, the Canadian Franchise Organization. They have a national conference much like this one, and we take time to go to that. We send many of our executives because we get the importance of that we need to sharpen the saw as well. And by the way, the IFA is open to franchisees and suppliers as well. And in fact, Sonda Kitchens with Mr. Reuter is on the board. So we're very excited to have Sonda's participation. But if you go to franchise.org, which is their website, you can look up Franchise Action Network. The IFA has made it very easy for you as a small business owner, a franchisee, to make your political positions well known to your legislators. And there's a lot of legislation that's often proposed that's harmful to small business in franchising, so we got to let our position be known. And you can help with that, and it's very easy to do it at franchise.org. Now, every year we go to Capitol Hill as a group, and we are lobbying those legislators on your behalf, so I wanted to make sure that we point that out. So let's talk about call center efficiency. I mentioned that that was a big initiative that we've launched and that we had the opportunity to make improvement there. Remember one of those 4 words I talked about, one was improve. I know we have an opportunity to improve what we do in our call center because this is a diagram of our customer experience process at the call center. And it's not all automated. Remember I mentioned our task is to bring our simplicity into the business to make the complex simple. This is not simple. So it's tough to expect somebody to win with this. We can do better, and we will. On that note, with regard to making the complex simple, I talked about how marketing is the most complex part of the business today. So we've gone out and secured a world-class marketing ecosystem to make marketing simpler for you. It's one single place where you can get content, information about marketing. If you need stuff, maybe you need a logo, you can find it there. If you want to place a campaign with a preferred vendor, you can do it at Brand Builder. Let's take 2 minutes and watch this short video on Brand Builder.
At Dwyer Group, we understand the importance and power of local marketing for our franchisees. That's why we're launching Brand Builder. It's your go-to assistant when you have questions about local marketing for your brand. Such as, where can I find a logo? How do I drive more traffic to my website? Where can I find a brochure? And how can I get more Google reviews? Brand Builder is where you'll find all the answers. It's a world-class multi-channel marketing resource, made available to you as an easy-to-use online tool via your computer or tablet. Brand Builder is specially designed to become your very own personal marketing assistant. It's available 24/7, with all the knowledge and creative solutions you need to market your franchise locally. Brand Builder gives you access to a virtual library of online training and learning resources. Its creative tools and templates allow you to create and personalize marketing assets, products, and campaigns. And its preferred vendors guide offers instant connections. Whether it's traditional media, digital media, social media, or old-fashioned feet-on-the-street networking, Brand Builder will guide you every step of the way and across every communication channel. With Brand Builder, we're giving you the marketing tools to build local success and achieve outstanding results for your franchise. Why not try it today?
You can access Brand Builder at your company connection site. Next, let's talk about Acquire. Acquire with regard to driving toward $2 billion in system sales. Our objective is to go out and seek other service verticals, other brands that are complementary, similar in nature to the brands that we have today. And we've had quite a bit of success doing that over the last year. Just before we got together last year, we just closed on acquiring our German master licensee's Rainbow business there in Germany. So we now have an office in Germany where we're direct franchising. We're direct franchising in the UK now. But since we've been together last, we've had the opportunity to bring 5 new businesses, 5 new brands into the Dwyer Group. And I'm going to talk to you about each of those over the next few minutes. So here are the 5 that we've acquired: Five Star Painting, Ground Skies Canada, and then three under the Service Brands International umbrella: Handyman, Protect Painters, and Molly Maid. So let's go into detail about each one of those. On January 2nd of this year, we closed on Five Star Painting. Started in 2004. They've got 70 franchisees, about 23 million in system sales, and a very high system growth rate at about 17%. We've wanted to have a painting business for a very long time. We think that's a core trade service that makes a lot of sense for us to own. So very excited to welcome Five Star Painting to the Dwyer Group. Next is Ground Skies Canada. Many of you know the Ground Guys story that's been around for a while. In 2009, we were looking at a Canadian franchising magazine, and we saw an article on a grounds care maintenance franchise business in Canada, started by 10 brothers, the Van Stralen brothers, and we thought, wow, this would be a potential acquisition for us. This might be a nice complement to our existing lineup of services. So we reached out to them, and we started a dialogue. But they weren't ready to sell yet. They didn't feel like they'd built the business to a point that it made sense to sell. But we liked each other. We were similarly aligned on values and culture. And we wanted to do something together. So we struck up a unique relationship and arrangement where we had the rights to develop Ground Skies in the U.S., and they would continue to develop Canada. And that was in 2010 that we executed that. And today we have over 200 Ground Skies in the U.S. There's the Ground Skies. So we reinitiated the acquisition conversation again last year, and I'm excited to report that in June we were able to welcome Ground Skies Canada into the Dwyer Group. So we're very excited to have their 29 franchisees with their 25 million in system sales. Very nice to have the brand back together. I do want to point out that Peter Van Stralen, who was the president of Ground Skies Canada, is going to be staying on our Dwyer Group Canada board, and several of the Van Stralen brothers will continue as Ground Skies franchisees in Canada. Very excited about this. Next is the Service Brands International acquisition with the 3 brands I mentioned, one being Mr. Handyman. Mr. Handyman was founded in 2000. They currently have 117 franchisees with about 65 million in system sales. They are the #1 category leader in their space. Now, a little bit about the handyman business. We've kind of looked at it over the years, off and on, but really never very seriously. The reason is, I wasn't really sure, we weren't very sure how big the business could be. In addition to that, we weren't sure how much might it cross over to our other brands and kind of step over other services. So I'm excited to report, as we started to do our pre-purchase analysis and we looked at the business, I was amazed at how much it's like our other brands. Very similar in the way they conduct their business, very similar in job average, and the size of the business that they can build it to. So I became very excited about the business as we looked into it. Then that left the question about, well, gosh, is it going to cross over to our other trades, our other brands too much? So as we were doing that pre-purchase analysis, we had the SBI presidents in the room, and we asked them, we thought, well, gosh, you got Handyman and you got Protect Painters. That seems like 2 naturals to maybe you guys would cross over a lot. How do you handle that? They said, you know what? It really doesn't come up that much. It turns out, if you're going to paint your house, you call a painting company to get a painting estimate. In Handyman, their typical job would be, they do lots of odds and ends when they go out to a home, and talking to many of their franchisees over the last 2 or 3 months. A typical job for them would be to fix a step, fix a gate, fix a hole in the wall, mount a TV, and maybe hang some pictures. And in fact, talking to Skip, their sales leader, and some of their other franchisees, their favorite job is wood rot. They love wood rot. because it just keeps going and going. But it's amazing how similar the business is to other brands. So the crossover of services really is not a big issue. I'm going to show you how this is accretive to all of your businesses in just a few minutes. And if you think about it, if there is any crossover of services, these are not calls you would get anyway because they called the handyman to do them. And many of them have told me, I refer work all the time out to an electrician or a plumber and so forth. And just one more thing on crossover services if you're thinking about it. We've had crossover services for the non-exclusive services at the Dwyer Group since the beginning of time, since the beginning of multi-brand. We've had it in the way of hydronics, refrigeration, air duct cleaning, water heater repair, and so forth. We've got it in the way of Mr. Rooter, AirServe, Mr. Electric, Mr. Appliance, Rainbow. So it's really not a big issue. Let's think about how this is right. Protect Painters, that's an interesting one. As we were looking at the SBI Umbrella Service Brands International, and we thought, gosh, we'd really like to do this acquisition, but darn, we just bought a painting company. What are we going to do with this painting company? We thought, well, maybe we can talk the sellers into keeping it. Well, that didn't really look like that was going to be an opportunity. And then we thought, well, maybe we'll acquire the business and spin the painting company back out. But as we started to do that pre-purchase analysis and we looked at the territories, we put them out on paper and we lined them up, we realized, wow, the overlaps really aren't that bad. You see, one thing you have to understand about the painting space is there's CertaPro painters up here. They're the 800-pound gorilla in the category. And then there's everybody else. There's no clear number two. It became clear to us if we could put these two businesses together into one great company, we would emerge as the clear number two category leader, and we could chase CertaPro. And that's exactly what we intend to do. So we're doing that, working with the advisory councils of both of those companies and leadership, as well as outside resources such as outside marketing experts and such. So excited about where we're going to get to with that. And then there's Molly Maid, started in 1984. They have 241 franchises and do over $200 million in system sales. $200 million. They're the largest business in the service brands umbrella. We've been interested in the maid space for a very long time because we like the sticky relationship that they have with the customer, the high customer contact. We think that leads to some interesting opportunities. We've tried to get into the maid business for a long time, but the opportunities just haven't played out. So we're very excited that we were able to work that out this year. One other thing that I think is very important to note, for a fairly mature and established business, they've got a pretty strong system sales growth rate at nearly 8%. So very excited about that. Let's look at this next slide here. What this slide is intended to convey is where we operate, and it starts to get into why acquisitions matter to you. If you look at all of our service verticals that we're in and put them in one big bucket, it'd be fair to say that 85% or so of all the work that's done out there in our space is done by the collective of the local independent service providers. If you think about your market, you probably have a couple hundred of them, maybe more. Well, they do most of the work out there. And they're in that lower left-hand quadrant. They've got a very short-term view of the business. It's not strategic. Their view is transactional focus. They really just want to get the job done, get the check, put it in the bank, and make payroll at the end of the week. That's largely their focus. And then moving to the right and up, you've got single brand franchisors and regional players. And then where we operate is in that upper right-hand quadrant with a lot of scale and with strategic intention toward driving customer value, with a very long-term view of the business. Now, we're not alone. There are other national and international companies that operate in this space. There's a few on the screen: Roto-Rooter, Service Experts, Sears, and you can probably name a couple others. But there aren't very many. And there's nobody has assembled the core lineup of trades that people need to help repair, maintain, and enhance their home that Dwyer Group has. So there's nobody quite like us. So that presents some interesting opportunities for our future. So let's talk about the future a little bit more. We've already talked about engagement. We've talked about improving our business, how we've got to improve. We've got to get better. We can't stay where we're at. And we've talked about acquire. So let's talk about evolve and how we might evolve. The U.S. military has coined this phrase, this acronym called VUCA. VUCA, and it stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. As they do their strategic and scenario planning, they do that with this in mind, because this is the world they live in today. And many businesses have started to embrace this concept, because this is the world we live in today. You see, no longer does it make sense to do a 5-year business plan. Well, we still do them, we just do a new one every quarter. You see, the pace of change in business is incredible. So we have to keep this in mind. Now, what do we do with it? Well, first and foremost is that we operate in that upper right-hand quadrant with strategic intention. First and foremost, we're aware. You've got to be conscious, right? Then you've got to have the intellectual capacity to respond to the evolving situations in the marketplace. And we certainly hope to do that. But finally, we've got to be agile. We've got to be nimble. We've got to be able to react. As we build skill, we've still got to build in the ability to react. That brings me to an interesting opportunity that we had this year. Riverside has an interesting partnership with the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan. The Ross School of Business is one of the highest regarded business schools in the country. And every year they take many of their CEOs and other subject matter experts from marketing or IT and other subject matters, along with select Riverside executives, working together with the professors at the University of Michigan to take 2 of their companies as a case study. So these are CEOs and other executives from all over the world, from their 70-plus companies, but they picked 2 companies to feature as a case study. And I'm excited to report that Dwyer was selected as one of those case studies. So in June, we attended this event. Attending with me was Mary Thompson, our Chief Operating Officer. There's a slide of us at the program. And Steve Truitt, who at the time was president of Dwyer Service Solutions, now president of AirServe. Dwyer Service Solutions is charged with looking at strategic opportunities in addition to evaluating national account business. So let's talk a little bit about the case. What the case centered around was disruptive technology. Anybody heard of Uber in here? Anybody used Uber? Yeah. That's disruptive technology. They have an alternative business model that they introduced into the marketplace, leveraging disruptive technology. Well, what does that mean? There's a lot of talk about Uberizing businesses. Could your space be Uberized? How would you like to be in the taxi business right now? I just read last week, I think it was Newsweek, taxi business down 65% in San Francisco. 65%. That's scary. So we want to make sure that we don't become a victim of disruptive technology. So let's talk about, I'd like you to look at this slide. This is one of the slides that we presented to the group. And by the way this was organized, we would present the case, the professors would provide some content, some education. And then the group would split up into different groups, smaller groups, and go off and analyze the case, and then each group would do a report out. So this is one of the slides that we presented to present the case. This is the supply and demand continuum. So off to the left-hand side of this slide is where the customer is. They search for help, typically online today. They shop, and they book an appointment, often online. By the way, Mr. Appliance is leading the way for us in the digital space. I talked about how important digital is. Last month, 9% of their jobs were booked online without ever talking to a CSR, up 300% from a year ago. We think it's possible it could go up another 300% next year. That's why digital matters, and that's why we've got to be good at it. So looking at this slide, we operate on the right-hand side of this continuum. That's the supply side. So what does that look like? Well, we train for a job. That can take a very long time in most of our categories. We get a license. Again, that can take a long time. It can take up to 8 years to qualify a company with some of our verticals in some locations. And then you build service inventory. Well, how do you build service inventory? Well, you acquire trucks, you put inventory on them, and you hire technicians, right? And that takes a while to build reasonable capacity. How do we build service inventory? Well, it's taken 34 years for us to get here. So supply, because of that, supply doesn't react very well to demand. Demand can change very quickly. As you know in your business, sometimes you don't have very many jobs. It's a slow day. Then other times, you have too many jobs. Sometimes it's weather related, sometimes it isn't. But supply doesn't react very well to it because it's what we call supply inelastic. It takes a long time for us to change our capacity. We also have another unique dynamic in our space, and that's what I would call real-time spoilage of our inventory. Think about it. If you've got a technician or technicians in your shop ready to go, and you don't have a call to send them on, that capacity spoils real time. If you can't bill those hours out that day, you will never get those back. They're gone forever. It's worse than bananas on a shelf. Unlike, you think about Amazon, who leveraged disruptive technology to improve the shopping experience for goods. Anybody ever shop at Amazon? Sure. Why? Because it's a great experience, right? You can find anything you need. It's very convenient, and it's going to show up in a couple days with certainty. But think about what they do. They can stock up the warehouses. Maybe they know that the holiday season's coming along, and they're going to have the Black Friday sale. If they don't sell all the stuff on the shelf today, it's still there tomorrow or next week for them to sell it. No big deal. We don't have that luxury. So given this dynamic, there are those out there that have some that have been that have disrupted the brick and mortar retail product sales space, and others, they think there's an opportunity to improve the purchase experience in the service space, leveraging disruptive technology. And you know what? We think they're right. There is an opportunity for improvement. There will be some improvement, and we need to be a part of that improvement. But the question is, how far will it go? So remember that, well, let's talk about this next slide here. Remember I talked about that database that Dwyer Service Solutions looks for strategic opportunities for folks to partner with. This slide is an indication of some of those potential partnerships. Now this is just a partial list of all the potential disruptors or strategic partners that are attempting to operate or are operating in our space. And some of them are here at this reunion. This white bar for each one of them is intended to represent what we believe the extent of their capabilities are today. Now, one other thing that's important to note about this is every one of these is what we would consider as demand aggregators, okay? Demand aggregators. None of them are demand generators. So what they're doing is gobbling up the existing demand that's out there. So what might the consequence of that be to us? Well, we expect to see lead cost inflation as a result of all of them competing for these leads so that they can consume them to repackage them, potentially with somebody like us. So if we look at the case, what did we present to the group? It was, what should our position be? Should we partner with anyone? And if yes, who might be the best ones to partner with? Now, what our strategy had been is to be very, very selective as we talk to these people, and many of them reach out to us because we're a natural for fulfillment, right? We would be very convenient with them with all the service capacity that we've acquired over the years. And a key litmus test for us, for ones that we might partner with, is who owns the customer relationship? If we can own the customer relationship, they're okay with us building a relationship with the customer, then we're interested if we can get the economics right. If they want to own the customer relationship and we're just fulfillment, not so much. A couple other interesting things came out of the report outs. And by the way, I'm excited to report that each and every group validated our strategy. They all thought that, hey, you are operating in a market that has scarcity of supply, and that's not going to change. Remember that inelasticity of supply? You can't ramp up the supply capacity in our space very quickly. So we're already in the space. That's the great news. And there's going to be scarcity for years to come. So we're in a position of strength. So our strategy was validated. But a couple other things came out of the report outs that were interesting. One was that you guys have so many services that you ought to create your own portal or your own destination. Imagine amazingservices.com. Now, don't go look it up. It doesn't exist, okay? I don't want you going down to your mobile phones. This is conceptual. Imagine amazingservice.com that would be a place of trusted, vetted service providers for the consumer to go to. We should use that to generate our own demand. That would be interesting to the customer. The other thing that came out of it was they said, you guys have so much scale, you should be partnering with yourself. And that's not necessarily a new idea for us. We've had that idea before, and those of you that have been around a while have heard us talk about that. But only recently, by leveraging technology, are we able to execute on that. You see, disruptive technology doesn't have to be bad. We can use it to our advantage and win from it in the marketplace. And that's exactly what we intend to do. So I want you to imagine a future time when we have the amazing Dwyer lead platform. And that's that blue box in the middle, the amazing Dwyer lead platform. And off to the left of that platform would be our strategic partnerships. Now again, these are conceptual, but these are some names you'd recognize. If we have the right economics, we can consume those leads into the amazing Dwyer lead platform. And then that little blue box to the left there in the corner is amazingleads.com, and that would be the portal that we create with all of our service verticals that customers would find. So we could generate our own leads. And that would feed into the amazing lead platform. And the ad funds and that sponsor websites would go into the lead platform for you. All your local leads could go in there. And bolted off of that Dwyer lead machine platform would be a customer data hub and a data warehouse that maintains information on all customers and all leads and has a data intelligence engine and a business reporting tool attached to it. Now, I'm excited to report that that's not the future, that's now. We've been working on that over the last couple of years, and that's now in place. All of your POS systems have been consuming data into that. So remember I talked about that customer relationship management? You've got to use a tool like that so that we can get smarter about the business and stay in touch with your customers for you so that we can shorten that purchase cycle. And that'll create an opportunity for growth. And then there's you. Over on the right-hand side of the slide. And you've got your hand on that spigot. And as you have a day that's a little slow, you can dial up the spigot and consume leads until you're comfortable. And as you get busy, you can just tighten that spigot down. And we can do it in a way that we don't burn customers and burn leads. And that's exactly what we intend to do. Let's take just a minute and talk about the customer continuum. Customer has a need. They do some research, again, often online today. They select the service, they schedule, then they review us. They receive the service, and then they review us. Now, the review could be something as simple as, hey, I like these providers. That was a good company. I'm going to use them again. Or it might be something more explicit. They may go online and post a formal review. And that's what we want them to do because we do a pretty good job. We want them to tell other people about it. Then we should be nurturing the customer, the relationship, and if we do that, we can educate them and have the opportunity to sell additional services to them and potentially other verticals, other types of services, other brands. And then it all starts over again. You see, it's a virtuous continuum. But if we stop at performing the service and the customer reviewing us, which we more often than not do, we say, hey, I'm glad you like the service. Call us again when you need us. But they don't always do that because they forget about us. Then that's called the customer life cycle. It's not a continuum. And our goal is to make it a continuum. So imagine the future. Imagine a place that has a web page that's relevant to the customer. Because you see, today, the customer doesn't really want a relationship with us. They need a plumber maybe every 2.5 years or a painter every 2.5 years, not very frequent. So they don't want to follow you on Twitter. They don't want to go to your website. They don't want your app on their phone goobering up their real estate. That's just confusion and complexity to them. That doesn't make their life easier. But if you imagine all the service verticals that we have, and the customer looks at that and they had a great experience with you and realize, gee, there's 10 other categories. There's 10 categories here. I need one of these every month in my home. And in the case of Grounds Guys and Molly Maid, every week, right? Now that's interesting to me. Trusted, vetted service providers, that's relevant. That actually will make my life easier. I may even want that app on my phone. So imagine a future place where we've got a website that has, on the right-hand side, My Home Life, which exists today, that has content about the home that might be interesting. How to decorate the outside of your home without outdoor lighting. But it can be better. Design and decoration ideas for the inside of your home. A Pinterest-like site, something that's engaging for the homeowner. And tips about how do I remedy a smelly garbage disposal? How do I get spots out of my carpet? Then imagine, in the middle of that page, that we have somebody that can sell product. The customer sees a beautiful ceiling fan in the decoration area, the My Home Life, and they click on that, and it would take them to the middle of the page where they could order that product. We're in 1.2 million unique homes and businesses a year. We do over 2 million service calls. In fact, with Molly Maid, 3 million. Somebody's probably interested in that real estate. And why might we do that? So that we can have enough relevant content for the customer. And then if they need that ceiling fan put in, that's over on the left side. That's amazingservice.com. That's you. Trusted, vetted service providers. Now the customer's interested in that. We can stay relevant to the customer. That's sticky. And maybe they get so comfortable with us that they would actually want to create a login and a password, and we can have all their service history since the beginning of time on their home, on their website, and maybe other content we might be able to bring in. So imagine a future like that. We have to evolve to that space. So this is what each of you do now. You're out in your marketplaces building your own verticals, customer verticals. You each have a collection of customers. However you've got the customer, you're collecting them up. In a market that we have several of our brands, this is what it looks like. I don't know why you would be interested in having this, which is what each of you have today, when we can bring you this. And that's exactly what we intend to do. We need to put a fence around our customers, and we need to partner with ourselves, and we need to drive down your marketing costs, and we need to create a sticky relationship with all the customers. Think about what it would do to your business. Imagine multiplying your customer database by 9-fold. What would that do to your business? We've talked about news, we've talked about numbers, and we've talked about the future, and we've talked about the stuff that we've accomplished and the foundation we've laid for a very bright future full of prosperity and opportunity. We've never been better positioned to garner the headline that you see on the screen. We have fantastic supportive private equity partners to help us get to $2 billion. We have an amazing group of franchise executives, the finest in the country. Just ask around in the franchise community. They're engaged and eager to help you get to $2 billion. But most importantly, we have you, our franchisees, each dedicated to doing what you do every day, and that's delivering exemplary, frontline, world-class service. Together, we're significant. Together, we're driving to $2 billion. Together, we're Dwyer Group. Have a great reunion. The future's very bright for us.